Welcome, everybody. This is Bones. Welcome to Bones Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Bones, and this was a unprompted, um, kind of spur of the moment podcast. Something that came to my mind, and I wanted to kind of share and talk about it. Just real quick. Hopefully, this probably won't be a very long podcast, but it's very important. Um, for those of you all that know, we had a really fun show yesterday. It turned out really, really, really good with Jonathan Hendricks. It was a great show. Um, pardon me. But one thing that we did to kind of do at the end, and after talking to someone near and dear to my heart, um, I kind of realized that what I did and that it could have hurt somebody that I care about's feelings, and I wanted to talk to him, so I did. And when we got on the drug topic, it kind of went to the point where it almost seemed like I was making fun of a situation. But and I realized that after I did it. And that's why I want to get on here. I want to be a man and own this because it's the way that I made a joke about this. I think my joke was something on the lines of um there was a lot of ODs in Kroger's, which there was a whole lot. And of course, I made the joke about, well, I guess they do that because that way, once they get high, then they got plenty of munchies. And yeah, it was all funny, ha ha ha. But also it can be looked at as a little insensitive. The reason I did that is, all these years with EMS, one thing that we did, whether it be right, whether it be wrong, one thing that we always did was a lot of times is we made fun of situations, and it was our way of dealing with it because like back then, I was doing overdoses like it was like 9 a day, and it started getting very frustrating. You felt like there was just no hope in sight. It was like, is this cycle ever gonna end? And, it would you tend to get a little bit, complacent, I guess is the word that I'm looking for with people who are doing that. But I'm missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is even though I'm frustrated with the situation, these are good people. Most of these people are good, average, everyday blue collar people or poor people, rich people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate with your economic status. But a lot of really good people, and this person that I care about, they've been on the unfortunate end of that stick to where they lost uh, incredibly important people in their life because of drugs, and so have I. I've got my sister-in-law, my niece. She sadly passed for overdose. I can't even remember now. I think it's been about 2 years. I guess I don't even know. Everything's always such a blur, but like my sister-in-law, she's had just a incredibly rough time, and I can only fathom what that would be like because no parent should ever have to bury a child. I mean, that's a terrible thing to have to deal with, and but while talking with this loved one that I care about, I was like, uh, what they went through is unfathomable to my mind. Um, and I hope and pray that no one has to learn what they went through. I hope no one does. Sadly, the reality is that people will. But like one thing that she had made a comment to me was that like the EMS people seemed almost like they're a little bit put out or just like, come on, that kind of thing. Well, that definitely looked insensitive and it to her, which it should. But on the same token, like I explained to her, like it's not an excuse, but this is what I went through when I was in that career field. And it kind of showed her a perspective of, you know, did they do the most professional way of doing things? No, but it might have been their way of just the frustration building and building to the point that because you do get frustrated. You wanna help people, but you feel like all you're doing is stuck in this endless rut that you can't get out of. And that's the sad part about drugs. And this shit's gotten way out of control now too. Like the comment I made in yesterday's episode of talking about back in the 70s, if you were gonna go buy weed from somebody, well, you could just buy weed and you knew that's what you were getting. But now you don't know what the heck you're getting because people are doing such heinous things and they're lacing everything. So it is incredibly risky now. It's even more risky now than it probably was back in the 70s, truthfully, because you just don't know what the heck you're going to get. And the bad thing is, a lot of these people get started on this stuff for reasons that's not necessarily their doing. And you know, some people may have become an addict because they had a horrible surgery and they were on pain meds because they had an extensive surgery. Well, the next thing you know, their body gets used to that feeling. They love that euphoric feeling. They're like, ooh, the brain's like, I need this. And then once they get taken away from that because they're at a point where they don't need to be on the pain meds anymore, well, it's like their brain still craves it, and it's telling them, "Hey, man, you need I need this fix." And your brain is incredibly persuasive thing. It can get you to not think clearly if it wants something, and in my opinion anyway. And so that being said, it's, just because you see someone that's a drug addict doesn't mean that they're some piece of shit, because they're not. It's somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's dad, somebody's mom. It can all shades of the rainbow. So, and a lot of people go down that rabbit hole too for other reasons. Veterans are probably the biggest, and the reason being is the stuff they had to see and endure is is a lot of times unfathomable by anyone who has not experienced it. So, if you haven't gone through and you haven't been in the military, you haven't been shipped away to wherever across the globe, or been in any kind of conflict like what's going on currently right now, it's one of those things that it's really hard to put yourself in a position to where you know how that person thinks. And a lot of times when they come home broken. And I would like to think that our government needs supposedly, from what I've told, they are doing better. I don't know if that's true or not, but they should be if they're not, because taking care of our veterans, especially the veterans that actually served this country and actually had to deal and see heinous stuff, we need to take care of those people when they come home, because when they come home, they're in a vulnerable state. Um, their minds may not always think clearly. Because PTSD is huge with military, but you know what? But PTSD is also not just for military. There are people that experience PTSD, and this loved one that I'm referring to, that this person I care about greatly, they have it. They may not know it, but they do, because of what they had to go through in their life, which I'm not going to discuss in this podcast, but what they had to go through in their life is that would take a toll on anyone. And sometimes those things lead to problems too, whether it's suicidal ideations, whether it's drug use to try to numb the pain. Alcoholism is obviously runs rampant because of it, because people use these things to try to cope. So, so I just wanted to do a quick podcast to kind of talk about this, because it's like, I made a joke, and but that joke that I made was to the wrong people, could have been insensitive, because it's like, damn, he just doesn't give two shits about people like that. But that's not the case. That's just a habit that I was into for 20 something years, to, try to numb the pain of seeing this heinous shit over and over and over again, and wishing that you had that magic key that you could solve that problem. But the thing is, you don't have that key. And when you're seeing it over and over and over again, um, making light of things is was just a coping mechanism. But if you're not in that field, or if I do that to somebody who hasn't experienced that, that's not been in the public service sector, it's not been in the military, that's well, then it just looks like that you're just being an insensitive prick. And I realized that after I said that, I was like, damn, I kind of made myself look insensitive because I tend to sometimes forget that the way we did some things and the way we coped with things, if you didn't do that line of work, you wouldn't understand that that's what we're trying to do. Now, is it right? Is wrong? Who knows? But that's just what we did to cope and deal with, to try to minimize that amount of stress that we were carrying home every day. Because there for a while, like I say, it was. I mean, when you're doing like 9 overdoses a day, it's like, oh my. I mean, we were carrying so damn much Narcan, it was unreal, and it's just it's so frustrating. It felt like you were beating your head against a wall because you wanted to help these people, and for the most part, a lot of people want help. And then there's some, sadly, that don't, or there's some that don't because they they had that false hope of, well, we've got a Narcan, so I'm fine. If something happens, they'll give me that, I'll be good. And that's not a good way of looking at it. But some people were that way, and, some people get into drugs for other reasons too, like I say, same with the alcohol, to numb the pain. It could be something as that someone was abused, whether it be physically, sexually, verbally, someone may have been taken advantage of, um, or someone could just have lost a lot of loss. There's so many different things, so I guess my point to this incoherent rambling that I'm doing is that, it's very easy to armchair quarterback other people's lives. But sometimes you got to take a step back and say, damn, I wonder what happened to that person. What brought that person to that point in their life? And is there anybody that could help them? Or why didn't anybody reach out or try to help them before? And that's even if they knew, I guess. Some people hide things really well. Um, back in my career, I had plenty of people that were doing stuff in their family. They were clean supposedly, but they fell off the wagon. But the family didn't want to admit it because they're like, no, they've been clean for years, and they just couldn't wrap their head around the fact that these people sadly stumbled and fell, and they relapsed on the same thing that they had done before, and that the families just didn't want to accept it because they were doing so good. But that just shows the power of drugs. That shows how crazy. Um, it just shows how crazy of a stranglehold that drugs have on people, and especially different ones. Um, some drugs obviously are not as strong as others, but a lot of the stuff that's going around out there is there's no second chances. There's no takebacks. So if you've got children, you need to make sure, in my opinion, you need to make sure that you're having talks with your children a lot, and start at an early age, and just keep pounding that into them that that they've got to be diligent, they've got to watch for this, they've got to be careful who they run with, they got to watch what they're eating and drinking or smoking. I mean, they need to know what could potentially happen to them. But by not doing anything or saying anything or not trying to tackle the hard topics such as this, because drugs that's not a fun topic to talk about. No one wants to talk about that. It's hard. It's frustrating, but it needs to be done because it all starts at home with you and with your loved ones. So, trying at an early age, that helps. But still, that's not a guarantee that things don't happen down the road. Like, for instance, like we spoke about with the military. So if you have loved ones that go away to the military, that's noble. Like those are the true Americans, and those are the people that actually are keeping us safe. And we got to have them, and we love them. But we also need to love them enough to where when they come back home, we need to make dang sure we need to keep an eye on them because they've seen things that a lot of people may not have. So that can affect your mind, and they need all the support they can get. So, for like with our government and stuff, they definitely. I've heard that there's been improvements, and I hope that's true. I'm not in the military, so I don't know for sure, but I've heard that they have started stepping up their game, and they should, because these veterans that have served this country, they deserve to be taken care of, and they need to have avenues to keep an eye on them and get them good medical care and good places to go if they're having troubles, you know, mentally or whatever. Because a lot of the stuff they see, man, it changes you. Even EMS. I mean, I've seen some stuff that I wish to God I'd never have, and a lot of that stuff, once you see it, you can't take it back. It can't go away, and there's no take backsies. Ain't no put backsies. Once that genie's out of the bottle, it's staying out. And but just like EMS, we need people in those fields too. We need police officers to keep some form of order. I mean, if you didn't have that, it would just be complete anarchy, and that's no way to live. So you got to have them, whether you like them or not. You got to have them, and most people that are in those professions are not bad people. They just do their job, and they're not bad. Now, you're going to have bad eggs in everything you do. There's bad police officers out there. There's bad EMS people. There's bad people that work at the grocery store. There's bad people that work at the auto mechanic shop. I mean, there's shitbags everywhere. No profession is able to get away from it. But you know, I kind of just, but man, I just yanked hard on that, didn't I? I did like a hard right turn. But I guess my point is I need to try to be. I'm not in EMS anymore. I need to try to figure out a way to deal with stuff to where it doesn't sound quite so insensitive. Because, like I say, people could have taken that as me just being a prick. But if they realize, oh, he works EMS and he's seen a lot of that shit, well, he's probably making jokes of it just to cope. And I'm not saying that's right, but that's just what we did. The frustration's real. I mean, with things. I mean, you're making 9 overdoses a day, and you feel like you're in that rut. Well, it breaks anybody down, because every time it's like the next call, it's like another one. Are you serious? It's like, ugh. So, but this is the sad epidemic we're in. And then of course once they find ways to try to get around one, well, all they're trying to do is try to mix shit to make something the next big thing. And then the next big thing always has trials and tribulations too, because what's in it? Will Narcan still help it? Will it not? Is there something that they're gonna have to figure out what's an antidote for this? I mean, who knows? I mean, it's forever changing, but I wanted to get on here and just real quick just talk about that, because like I say, sometimes the way things come out, in my mind, I knew what I was saying, but other people could misconstrue that. And after I caught myself doing it, and I thought about that, I wanted to reach out to an individual and ask their opinion on things, because they know they know a lot about the side of the track of drug addiction that I don't know. I know the one side where you're dealing with it, medicine, getting them to the hospital, doing all that stuff. They deal with the other side, and that other side's just as cold of a track, because they lost loved ones that they cared about. And they may have tried to do everything they could to help the individual, and it ended up in a tragic way. So I wanted the perspective of that individual as well, because I wanted to learn, because I think that's another thing too. Like I mentioned, I don't know, it was a podcast or so ago. I was talking about how I've been trying to also work on myself, because I was getting very bitter for a while, and I was kind of being I was getting grumpy and bitchy about shit, and and I didn't like the way I was acting, and I was like, "Man, I need to start working on myself." So I've been doing self-motivational stuff, watching podcasts while I work, going through my band stuff for James Luker, and I'll have a podcast going, and sometimes it's a podcast that may be about mental, you know, how to cope with different things or how to deal with certain stressors, um, the things that I falter at, the things that I'm not good with. Um, and I enjoy some of these videos. I think they've done worlds of help for me. I'm getting a lot better with things. Now I still have my moments where, I'm less than stellar, but I have been a lot more calm, a lot more patient. I've been able to deal with a lot of things a lot differently than I used to. And so when I caught myself in this situation where I kind of was it was kind of an insensitive comment. I was like, "You know what? I need to reach out to somebody. I want to learn a different perspective of this. I want to hear from somebody else who's dealt with the other side of that coin." And I'm glad I did because they opened my eyes to some things too, with what they've had to deal with. And on the same token, they felt the same way too in regards to, they had always thought the way that the one ambulance crew had treated their loved one at the time, they thought they were quite insensitive. And I said, "Well, it's not an excuse, but this is probably why they did what they did." And I explained the whole frustration factor and dealing with the same thing over and over, and just that sense of unspoken hopelessness that the EMS crew knows they're going into because they're dealing with it over and over and over again, and it's like a systemic problem that we just cannot seem to get a hold of. And so that's why they get a little bit put off, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. I don't know if that's the right word, but where they just feel they just seem like, "Okay, come on, let's go to the truck. Let's go." You know, and it's just a frustration factor. Now, is that professional? No, it's not. Now, have I done that? And did I get frustrated and feel hopeless when I was in that career at some point in time? Sure, of course I did. And you don't mean ill will by it. It just but that's the whole point of having this podcast too, is to talk about this, is that, the way I handle the grief of that topic with try to be humorous. Well, like I say, if you didn't work that line of work, then you wouldn't really understand that tactic. And then, you know, to an outsider listening to this podcast, I'm like, damn, somebody might think that it's just like, oh, well, he's a peach, you know. And I wasn't trying to be, but I came off that way, maybe to some people. So I wanted to be the bigger man, and even though it's an unfiltered podcast, because it is, I can say whatever the fuck I want. I don't care. It's my podcast, and I don't even have to be sitting here doing this. I didn't have to own this, but the thing is, just because it's unfiltered doesn't mean that you can't change. That you can't, maybe s- redirect how you deal with some certain questions or certain topics, and say them in a better way. Um, you can still be unfiltered, and unfiltered is a play on words too at times, because it's not just the fact that I cuss a lot, because we know I do, and that's not attractive. And some people hate that too. And I need to work on that. But I don't want to work on that yet. I'll work on the bigger problems to me first. But unfiltered can also mean, it's also a play on words, because you all know how big of an idiot I am when it comes to technology. So this has been a struggle. So I'm unfiltered because every podcast I've done thus far, I've tried one and I'm working on trying to edit it. And I don't, I right now I just beat my head into a wall. But but where the hell was I going with that? Yeah, I just totally had a little mini stroke. Um, but essentially wow, I completely lost that, where I was going with that. Hmm. Dementia, early onset dementia. It could be me. It might be. But But anyhow, the unfiltered podcast is also means it's unfiltered because I have to be organic and live right now. And there is no take backsies with what you say. Whereas when you record stuff, you can easily go back and say, "Oh, I made that comment. Well, let me edit that and me pull that out, and then I'll release the podcast." And then there is no rebuttals like what I'm doing right now. But I also don't think that what I'm doing right now is I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes being organic and not and going back and saying, "Hey, you saw the last podcast? Yeah, kind of overloaded my fucking mouth with my ass. Here I am now coming back saying, "Hey, I've had a change of perspective, and here's why." I think that's the right thing to do. I think it shows integrity and I think and I like being live. I'll be honest with you, I like being live better. And the reason I like being live, I haven't really looked over here yet, uh, but the comments. When you're doing a live show, you get to see everyone's seeing it real and they're commenting. You're seeing comments come in for real. So that's fun sometimes too. Cause like yesterday with Jonathan, there was some people in the comment section that asked questions. Hey, or say, hey, have him talk about the brown jacket or what. So it's like when I see live stuff like that, it's cool because I can see different people's comments. And we can also use that as a catalyst of more questions and stuff to be asked. And hang on, sorry about that. I thought I muted the damn phone. I guess I didn't. But anyway, sorry about that. See, again, just completely just thought I fucked that. I just fucked that up too. I'm just awesome. I I have a way of messing shit up, but it seems to be entertaining at times. Here, Miss Val's here. Miss Val, always. Just got home from the doctor. Well, I hope you're feeling better. I really do. Miss Val, she is absolutely incredible. Just got home from the doctor and still jumped on my piddly ass podcast. I love it. I mean, thank you, thank you, thank you. Miss Pamela's in here. She's always super supportive. Thank you. So is Wolf from Wolf Fair Records and Podcasts. Definitely check her out if you haven't. She's got a good show too. And I don't know if we're going to do anything tonight. It's possible. She's going to be doing. I think she's going to get ready to start doing some of the uh, uh, well, shit, I don't even know what the hell she called it again. It was that video game podcasting stuff. So that's going to be awesome. Her doing that. So definitely check her out. Especially if there's anybody listening on Kick that likes the video game aspects of things, we'll check Wolf out, and she's going to be doing that kind of stuff here pretty soon. Miss Mary Ash, I appreciate you being in here. I always love seeing Miss Mary. She's another one that just tunes in all the time. So I'm very blessed. You know, to me, I've got 3 people in this room right now, and that's fine by me. I love it. I love just having. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I'm just glad to have the people that I have in my life, the people that support me that are doing this is awesome. Game streaming, that's what it's called. Yeah, game streaming. She's gonna be doing that. So come to Wolf Fair Records and watch her die on Fortnite. Well, you know what? I'd be Wolf. I'd be right there with you because I'm sure I'd get my ass capped as soon as the game started. But definitely never played Fortnite. But I've seen it. But apparently, it's very very popular. So check her out. I'm sure she's going to be on Kick and Twitch or whatever. I'm sure she's going to be on that stuff at least sometime tonight. Now, as for podcasting tonight. I don't know yet. It's possible that we could have a music artist on. I would be with Wolf if we did that, if she wanted me. If she didn't, then I'd be in her. I can be in her watching. But anyway, I just wanted to touch for a second and just kind of touch base about the whole drug thing because, like I say, it's very easy to stereotype people in, and I've done it. I mean, but a lot of humans have done it because we're humans and humans fuck up, and we have to learn. And the good thing is that sometimes you stumble and fall, but picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and getting back at it's the way to keep moving forward. And And this is no different. It's like I caught myself in the middle of that podcast, and then I finally stopped myself and I said, you know what? I said, we're going to change gears because this is a sensitive subject to somebody that's viewing. And I just didn't, even though it's unfiltered, that doesn't mean that you need to be an ass. If you know someone you care about and you realize, oh shit, I just went somewhere and I wasn't thinking of who had to suffer through that. Well, I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna do that to anybody. Even if it's unfiltered, I don't care about that. I don't want the last thing I wanna do is for someone to, um, misconstrue what I say, or why I'm saying something. So, I wanted to get on here and own that because, like I say, I learned something today, but also, I was able to share information too on the other side of that coin. And it was a great conversation. I wish I could get into detail with y'all, but that's a private matter that I'm not going to. But the individual I spoke with, it was great. I mean, it was a great talk. We talked for a while about it, and just hearing the story that they had is like so moving, and it's hard to wrap your head around. It was really hard to wrap my head around listening to it. And, it just shows that we've all got problems we're dealing with. We've all got shit, and some people got it worse than others. I mean, there's some people out there that I know and care about greatly that are gay or lesbian. And I know quite a few, and EMS was really big with it. There was a whole lot of people like that in EMS. Um, and but what frustrates me is the people that act like that these people are some fucking alien, and they're not. They're humans. And it's like, if you're gay, then be gay. If that makes you happy, be you. And, who am I to judge? I don't give a shit. If you want, if that's the way you are, as long as you're happy, that's what makes me happy. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you're gay. It doesn't matter if you're a lesbian. It doesn't make any difference. You know, um, there's no right or wrong thing here. And I don't believe I'm not super religious and I don't like to go I say I don't want to talk religion, but I don't see God frowning down on people who are gay. Because that makes no sense to me. He wouldn't do that. Now, some people don't believe in God. So again, I better stop the religious thing. I'm starting to go down a rabbit hole I don't need to, because politics and religion, folks, those are the things you generally want to you avoid. Why? Because people generally get really butthurt over both. So I would just as soon stay away from it. So I need to reel that back in. But my point is, I've got good friends that are going through those kind of adversities. I've got family members that had went through that kind of adversity. Um, I could only imagine what that's like coming out, um, especially to your family, and then your family not having a good reception of it is that's rough. And and sometimes they don't have a good reception of it, or it takes time. And it's not as I don't know if it's I honestly, I'd have to talk with some individuals to see, but to me, I don't think it's quite as big of a shock now as it would have been back in, like, say, the, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s. Uh, I think the what's the word I'm looking for? I think the acceptance of that back then was probably a little harder just due to the way that things were. It was not a norm. And people look at things that aren't normal as being something being broken or wrong. And that's not really the case. But people did that. But nowadays, I think it's probably not quite as bad, but obviously it still exists because I've got some people in my life that actually still struggle with that. And I don't understand it. They're no different than you or I. They just have a different desire. They desire a different mate. Well, if that makes them happy, then more power to them. You know, um, but those those kind of situations too can also. There's been a lot of people that have had to go through something as trivial as that, and they have ended up ended up on drugs because they're trying to dull the pain or take away the way they've been treated or memories of things, and they get themselves down a rabbit hole of drugs where it's too far. Or there's been some that have even contemplated death because of just the way that maybe family treats them, or close friends that they used to have, and then they find out when they come out, and then now all of a sudden these people don't want anything to do with them. I mean, all because there's something different. And to me, this world is a better place with people being different. Because, I mean, how fucking boring would this world be if we all were the exact same? We all did the same things. We all pretty much looked the same way. We all pretty much, everything was pretty much the same way. Well, how boring of a world would that be? But you change the world by you've got big people, small people, tall people, short people. You've got gay people, straight people. I mean, it's like you've got just this huge cornucopia of difference, and something different to look at and see and learn about. I mean, to me, it's those are good things. I don't know why some people frown down, but they do, and they still do. And it's just like racism. Racism to me, you're racist if you want to be, and you're never going to eradicate it. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think you could ever eradicate racism. But on the same token, um, I don't. I think there's a lot less of that going on now because it's not out of the norm. People are being born into, seeing all sorts of different races and stuff, and it doesn't matter where you go. So so that's another topic that's sometimes I wonder if the reason it's still even going on is because we just keep talking about it, and we don't just if we stop talking about it, maybe that things would finally die away with it. But I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I wish I did, but I'm not that smart. But all I know is that there's no difference. There's no difference with those individuals either. I mean, you skin us all down and we all look the same on the inside. There's no difference. So, I just don't understand the hate, whether it be for different races. I don't understand the hate for people who just were born and they like the opposite or the same sex. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It shouldn't make any difference to anybody as long as the individual's happy. And as long as they're not, now granted, if you have somebody doing something and they're being a shit to other people, then that's different. But most of the time that's not the case. These people are just living their lives and then they get treated like shit. Why? Because they are different. Well, I'm glad they're different. Because again, how boring of a world would it be if we were all the same? It would be pretty damn boring, in my opinion. So, but anyway, I just wanted to have a quick podcast. It's been about 38 minutes, so this one doesn't have to be long. It was just a deep thought, like I say, that I had, and I wanted to reach out with some people that I had some questions for, and I wanted to hear their story. And luckily for me, I had some people that were willing to share their stories with me and kind of confide in me, because that's one thing that being retired, I tend to I started doing was not kind of stop learning there for a while, and now I need to kind of pick that back up. And this podcast may be a good thing for me to pick that back up because I love to talk. I love people. I love helping people. Um, and if so, I wouldn't have done what I did for over 20 years. But hey, Brandon, somebody's at the door. Sorry for the interruption. Somebody's at the door. I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna let my son get it. Um, See, that's the glory of having a podcast where you got to do it in your living room. I don't have a cool studio. Haven't got to that point yet. Oh, it's my dad. Yeah, I forgot my mom and dad are coming. So, well, my parents are here, so I'm going to wrap this podcast up because I totally forgot. They told me they were coming today, and I didn't even realize what damn day it was. It's Thursday. Anyway, I'm gonna go wrap this podcast up a little shorter, but it's been about 40 minutes. It's been pretty good. So I'm gonna sign off. But anyway, just food for thought when you're thinking of stuff like that. Like I say, when you're thinking of drug addicts and stuff, just always remember they have a face, and that face could be your neighbor, it could be your kid, it could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be you. Um, Always remember that they have a face and that they are people. So same with the homeless. You know, they're homeless maybe for a reason. Um, who knows? So until you actually stop and ask someone what their story is, then you're just casting judgment. And I can say I've been there. I've done that before, and it's not right. Um, but all we can do is to try to learn and change the way that we are. And you just do that one step at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up since my folks are here. It was great talking to you all. I hope this helps some people. Like I say, I also wanted to say it to kind of put myself on that spotlight and put myself on that hot stove, because the way I said it, I know why I said it, but a lot of people didn't, and just the way my reasoning may not be even right, but that's it needed to be said why I did, but also I needed to show that even I can learn something, and even I'm wrong, and I'm wrong a lot on a lot of things. So, but it's all personal growth. So, much love and respect to everybody out there. Thanks for everybody that's been in the room. I'd already mentioned y'all. It's the same awesome peeps that always support me. Much love and respect to all of you. But this is going to be Bones wrapping this one up. And I don't know. Like I say, Wolf and I may do one tonight. I don't know. If not, then next week, Outlaw Whiskey, excuse me, Outlaw Whiskey. I don't know what day yet. I got to talk with them because they had to cancel for, a specific reason this week. But it'll probably be Tuesday, pardon me, with Outlaw Whiskey. But if or actually, you know what? It'd probably be Thursday. I take that back because they have oh, what do you call it? Band practice. They all get together on Thursdays, so that'd be a good time to do it, because that way, any of them that want to participate, we can bring them all in to the same podcast. So it'll probably be Thursday, but I don't know. More will come, so just kind of watch the Bones Enterprises LLC on Facebook. That's Bones Enterprises LLC with a period. You'll see my ugly mug. You'll see the emblem right here. You'll see that in the round circle. You'll know you're at the right place. Just keep an eye on that, because as soon as we know when something is going to air, whether it be Special Olympics, whether it be another topic like this, whether it be music, whatever, I'm going to post it. I'll try to give as much notice as I can. But sometimes, like this one, I didn't have notice. Why? Because I just sporadically decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So take it or leave it. But I'm glad for those who are here. But other than that, this is Bones signing out, saying peace, much love and respect to everybody. And I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Have a blessed day.